Hi guys and welcome back to the Mighty Blues. My name is of course Cameron and welcome back today to another live stream. It is the live game review to Everton's roller coaster ride at Old Trafford on Saturday night. 3-3 draw between Manchester United and Everton. Everton clinching a last second goal to equalise. It really did feel like a winner. It wasn't a winner, but that's what it felt like to every single Evertonian sat watching that game on Saturday night. Just when we thought we'd given the game away after coming back from 2-0 down to equalise to 2-2, DCL knocks in the equaliser with literally seconds to go. I mean, I think if the ball would have been cleared, John Moss would have blown the whistle for full time, but he didn't because it was headed on by Michael Keane. Despite Harry Maguire calling for some weird offside or handball decision for some reason, it was headed on by Michael Keane. Dominic Calvert-Lewin slotted it past David De Gea, making up for a mistake earlier on in the game, and the Evertonians rejoice throughout the world as everybody runs off to celebrate. Robin Olsen and Andre Gomez are hugging each other. They're jumping on Dominic Calvert-Lewin. Ben Godfrey's turning around and telling every player in red to F off because they're calling for a foul for some weird reason. And like I said, last second Elation has taken the Toffees to Old Trafford and come away with a point to make it, I think, 7 away games on the bounce without a loss. 7 wins out of 11, 2 draws and 2 losses, I believe, and a big point at Old Trafford. It is very early. It's only 11:30. Joel in the comments, massive thanks to Joel for getting involved. He says, Cam, it's only 11:30. If you are watching live, get involved in the comments. I know I don't usually start streaming at this time, but I had a day off work today, so I thought, you know what, we'll sit down, we'll do the stream a little bit early. I've got a feeling it's going to be a tasty one. I've got a feeling we're going to be sitting here for, at least an hour or so talking about this game of football, because a lot happened, of course, so there's a lot to delve into, and I'm also going to do the game preview to the Tottenham game a little bit later on as well. So yes, the first live stream is a little bit early, but you get a couple of videos. So if you are watching live, massive thank you. If you could hit that like button, it would mean a great deal to me. If you could subscribe as well, don't forget to do that. Share the live stream on social media, and let's get involved with as many people as possible. So yeah, a really entertaining game of football. A lot of goals, of course, a lot of individual mistakes, and I suppose that's the frustration with this game, is because obviously, look, if we'd have sat here and Dominic Calvert-Lewin doesn't put that goal in the back of the net in the last second, then, we're talking about a defeat, and a very disappointing defeat, because when you analyse the game in itself and you analyse the goals in which we conceded, I mean, the first goal, okay, it was a good ball in and it was a good header by Cavani, but it could have, quite comfortably been dealt with on another day. Michael Keane gets underneath the ball, and Mason Holgate doesn't sack Cavani, and you do sort of have that gut feeling is that, if Yerry Mina's on the pitch, of course, Carlo Ancelotti taking the decision to leave Yerry Mina out of this game. I don't think he was dropped. I think he was rested ahead of Wednesday's game against Tottenham Hotspur in the FA Cup, of course. Did play the entire game against Leeds midweek as well, a big, tough, physical game. So Carlo promised squad rotation, and I think we were to expect squad rotation. I almost knew that Michael Keane and James Rodriguez certainly would be back in the starting 11 on Saturday night. And when we all, looked at the starting 11 on Saturday night at 7 o'clock, and we saw that Yerry Mina had been taken out and Michael Keane had been put back in, I don't think anybody had an issue with Michael Keane being put back in, because he's been absolutely excellent this season. You could arguably say he's been our best defender, but one thing that was very noticeable in the game against Leeds was that Yerry Mina won near enough every aerial battle that he had to win. In fact, I think he won more headers in the air than any Everton player has done in 3 years. And when you're coming up against the Manchester United side, who have got clinical forwards and, players that can throw the ball into the box, you only have to look at their game against Southampton, their 9-0 win. A couple of their goals come from balls coming into the box and headers or players at the back post. And you see that first goal conceded, and you think, you do sort of think to yourself, if Yerry Mina's on the pitch there, we don't concede that, because Yerry Mina deals with that quite comfortably. But again, like I said, I assumed that there'd be squad rotation. Carlo promised that there would be squad rotation. So it's just one of them things. But we started the game really well. Let's go back from the start. Like I said, it was always going to be a difficult game coming up against the side who could have gone joint top. I think if they'd have won, certainly could have made up some ground on Manchester City. like I said, we started the game. Obviously, Carlo made a couple of changes. Michael Keane come in for Yerry Mina. Ben Godfrey kept his place at centre-back. Mason Holgate kept his place at right-back. Luca Dean played at left-back, of course. Robin Olsen starting in goal. We knew from Carlo's press conference that Jordan Pickford was still out injured, having picked up that hip injury or side injury, whatever that was, during the week before the Leeds game. So he missed out. We went into a midfield three of Tom Davies, Abdoulaye Doucouré and Andre Gomez. Tom Davies coming back into the team. Actually thought he performed really, really well. I've got a sort of an apology to make to Tom Davies and Andre Gomez a little bit later on in the video, because, we done the instant match reaction, and that's, I said it last week, that's why I like doing these reviews and sitting down, a couple of days after the game and talking in depth about the game in itself, because sometimes in an instant match reaction, when you win, your opinions can be heightened and you can maybe give a generous score. When you lose, they can maybe be, you're a little bit frustrated, you're annoyed, and maybe you're not looking at it in the game in the greatest of mindsets. And when you draw a game like this, I'm not going to lie to you, I really didn't know what to think, to be perfectly honest with you. I was sitting there doing the instant match reaction, and my brain hadn't quite processed the fact that we'd taken a point from that game. In fact, my brain hadn't quite processed the fact that we'd come out in the second half and we'd showed some bottle. We'd actually had the fight, we'd had the passion, we'd had the energy to get back into the game, and we had the desire to not bow down and be defeated at Old Trafford. We could have comfortably come out the second half and done what Southampton done and just give up completely and just allowed Manchester United to keep coming at us, or we could have defended a 2-0 loss and thought, right, let's save ourselves from embarrassment, chalk this one off and go again against Tottenham in the Cup and then Fulham next week in the league. But we didn't. We come out with desire, we come out with heart, and within 7 or 8 minutes of the second half, we brought it back to 2-2. And we're going to talk about the second half a little bit later on, and maybe we should have gone for the jugular a little bit more, but I understand why we didn't. But like I said, Carlo started with a very, very strong Everton team. James Rodriguez coming back into it, Tom Davies coming back into it, of course, Michael Keane coming back into it as well, and we started the game really, really comfortably. I thought, look, Manchester United had an awful lot of the ball, of course they did, they always were going to have. When you go to a ground like Old Trafford and you come up against a team like Manchester United, who are very good, let's be honest with you, whether they're title contenders or not, again, that's a conversation for other people to have. I'm not really interested in talking about where Manchester United will finish this season, but addressing them and looking at them, prior to the game, and looking at the side that we're coming up against, they're a very, very strong side. They've got a lot of attacking options. They're let down massively by the defence, but they've got a lot of good attacking players. And I thought Everton in that first 15-20 minutes done really, really well to nullify their attacking options. It reminded me a little bit like the Chelsea game at Goodison Park, where the opposition team had a lot of the ball and they were coming at us, but they just couldn't get through us, and they were being frustrated. And okay, we weren't having an awful lot of time on the ball and we weren't really breaking forward like we would have liked to, but it was comfortable and there wasn't many worries in that first opening 15 or 20 minutes. Like I said, there was a stat that come up on the television during the game. I think it was 17 minutes in, something like that, that stated that Robin Olsen had more touches at that time in 4 than Bruno Fernandez. I think it was Bruno Fernandez, Mason Greenwood and maybe even Marcus Rashford or Paul Pogba. 3 Manchester United players, including Bruno Fernandes, might have even been Cavani actually, had only had 2 touches of the ball, 17, 18 minutes into the game. So that showed how well Everton had done in that opening sort of period to just nullify Man United's strengths, and that was always going to be the key. The key in this game for me was not allowing Bruno Fernandes all the time and all the space on the ball to ping balls, left, right and centre and create opportunities. And obviously after they opened the score and that game plan sort of went to pot a little bit, and we did allow the likes of Bruno Fernandes all the time in the world to just do what he wanted, and we were made pay for that with the second goal. But like I said, in that opening 15 or 20 minutes, I think we kept our shape really, really well. We had a clear game plan, and that was to just nullify their strengths, not allow Bruno Fernandes any time on the ball, not even allow the ball to get to Bruno Fernandes, keep Cavani quiet up top, defend really, really well, and just keep them at bay. And I think, like I said, the game plan was working in that opening 20 minutes, but we can see the stupid goal ultimately. That was the difference. We can see the very, very silly goal. The ball goes out to the right hand side. I think it's Wan-Bissaka swings the ball in, and like I said before, Michael Keane gets caught underneath it. Mason Holgate doesn't sack Cavani. To be fair, I think Mason's probably thinking Michael Keane will get it, and Michael Keane's probably thinking, right, if this goes over my head, Mason will be covering me. Maybe a little bit of a lack of communication. Like I said, football is a wonderful game, isn't it? I must have contradicted myself about 600 times during that game. At 2-0, I said, game over. 10 minutes later, I had to tweet out a gif as to say I've never been so wrong in my life because we were back in the game. And football is very much a game of if, buts and maybes as well, and we can all sit here and say if Yerry Mina had been on the pitch, we wouldn't have conceded that goal. If Yerry Mina had been on the pitch, we could have won the game, because I don't think we conceded the third goal either. But he wasn't. The squad rotation was made, and it's not like we were bringing on a centre-back who has struggled recently, or bringing on a centre-back who we haven't got faith in. We were bringing on Michael Keane, who a lot of people would class as our best centre-back, and even one of our best players so far this season, and certainly since Carlo Ancelotti's come into the club. So Michael Keane gets underneath it, Mason doesn't sack Cavani, and Cavani heads in, and you sort of, like I said, you're thinking at that point, right, don't lose the game plan, don't let this all go out the window, don't start panicking, just continue to nullify the likes of Bruno Fernandez, don't allow Cavani another free header on the back post. But it seemed like as soon as we conceded that first goal, the game plan just went to tosh a little bit. And I've seen a lot of people on Twitter during that first half blaming Carlo Ancelotti and the tactics in which we set out to employ against that Manchester United side. But I don't know whether it was as much Carlo Ancelotti or as much the players who just completely panicked. And, you go 1-0 down at Old Trafford, and maybe panic stations do set in a little bit. And you've seen the difference between that first half performance as to the second half performance, where we came out with no fear at all, with no sort of, we weren't scared of Manchester United. We come out with pure energy and pure passion to get forward. We come out like we did in the Leeds game. But like I said, as soon as we conceded that goal, and it was such a stupid goal to concede because it's an easy ball in, nobody stops the cross in, and Michael Keane gets underneath the head, and Edison Cavani, who we sat here in length on Friday night, and we spoke about how clinical Edison Cavani is. We even had a Man United fan on the channel saying he needs an awful lot of chances to score, and I don't really know what he was talking about, because he's played against Everton 3 times now, and I think he's scored in 2 of the 3 games, and he really doesn't need a lot of chances to score. If you put a ball on a plate like that for him and you're not marking him, he's going to put it in the back of the net. And as soon as he did that, like I said, we just fell to bits a little bit, and the midfield wasn't really breaking forward. It was always going back to the defence, and like I said, I don't think Mason Holgate had as great as the games. I thought he was caught out in possession a couple of times. I thought Michael Keane done okay, but did struggle certainly in that first half. And Man United, I think, sort of smelt blood a little bit in that first half, and then it was the pressure was getting pounded on us. Then they were coming forward, then they were trying to get the second, trying to get the third, and I think trying to do to us what they did to Southampton last week, and get the game killed off by half time, and ensure that we weren't going to be able to come back into it in the second half. And obviously, maybe they did think that going in at 2-0, maybe they thought, okay, this is going to be very difficult for Everton in the second half, certainly the way in which we were playing. And like I said, we conceded the second, and I honestly didn't see a way back for Everton. I did not see a way back for this Everton team, not because of who we were playing and the fact that Man United are the the best thing since sliced bread, because we've seen before, and we've seen in this game, defensively they're susceptible to conceding goals. They're not the greatest team in world football. In fact, defending like that, they won't win a title. We seen yesterday and again, I don't want to bring them up too much because they'll fly in the comments and talk about how obsessed we are, but we seen yesterday a Manchester City team go to the champions, who, okay, I've lost a couple of times recently at home, but have a good home record in the last few years, and just absolutely annihilate them. And with that defence that Manchester United put out on Saturday, they won't get anywhere near Manchester City this season. But it was like in the first half, we didn't think like that. It was like in the first half, we were just sort of torn up between this team that we were fearing and that we knew are very good going forward, and we allowed them too much respect for me. We respected them far, far too much. And like I said, Bruno Fernandez went from having 2 touches of the ball and not being in the game whatsoever to basically refereeing the game and picking the ball up, and it was just like a flashback of Goodison Park a few months ago when he was picking the ball up in spaces and spraying passes left, right and centre, and getting forward and bringing their forward players into the game. And it did just feel like we'd felt a bit. It felt like the game plan had got out the window. It felt like players didn't know where they were playing, what they were doing, how to get forward, how to combine with each other. And it just felt like we'd really panicked at that point. Massive thank you to everybody for joining us live. I know a few people are confused about why we've started so early. It is only 10 to 12. I know a few of you might be working as well, so I apologise for that. If you're watching as a video afterwards, look, I apologise. It was an early stream. It's just that I've had the day off today, so I thought we'd do the stream today and then we'll do the preview as well a little bit later on, so you've got more content tonight. So I apologise that it's a little bit early. 22 people watching. Massive thank you to everybody for joining us. I really do appreciate it. Honestly, it means a massive amount to me. If you're enjoying, please do hit that like button. If you've got social media, share the live stream. Let's try and get as many people in here as we possibly can. And if you're new to the channel, don't forget to subscribe. So yeah, we allowed them far too much respect on the ball, far too much time on the ball. They were coming forward, they were breaking with energy, and Everton just seemed like we thought, you know what, we're not, these are better than us here, and maybe we should just settle for, trying to defend and not concede another couple. But like I said, that one thing that really frustrated me in the first half, and I want to bring it up, was the midfield. Tom Davies and Andre Gomes, I thought, had a really solid game. And I've got an apology to make to Tom Davies because he played a lot better than I originally thought he did. His pass completion was through the roof. And he did, I've since watched the highlights. I've since watched the first 15-20 minutes of the game back. And Tom Davies is pivotal in that midfield position. And he gets a lot of stick. Tom Davies, and look, Alan is obviously due to come back within the next week or so. Whether he'll be back for Wednesday's game against Tottenham, we don't know. But if he's not, we'd like to hope he'd be fit for Saturday against Fulham and coming in against the side that are struggling at the moment. But Tom Davies is fit into that Alan role, and he's had a lot of stick recently by Evertonians, and there's been a lot of people who have questioned whether he's good enough or not to, to lead this Everton team or to be a part of this Everton team. But I suppose that's not the question really, because we know when everybody's fit, when everybody in this Everton squad is fit, that Tom Davies probably doesn't make the starting 11. But what Tom Davies does very well is step in when he's needed and do a job, and that's exactly what he did on Saturday night. He stepped in, he broke the play up, he brought us forward, he was winning the ball back in dangerous areas, he was nicking it off them on the edge of the box, and he was putting in some really good challenges. He also put in a strong challenge on Bruno Fernandez in the second half, which I don't think Bruno Fernandez very much liked, and I think he went over and tried to take the cards out of John Moss's pocket and tried to give him a yellow card himself because he thought he was refereeing the game. But like I said, Tom Davies and Andre Gomes, both of them, Andre Gomes was very similar, both put in a really good effort in that first half, certainly in that first 20-25 minutes, and in the second half again they carried it. But as soon as we conceded, we looked, I don't know why, we just looked hesitant to get the ball forward. I don't know whether it was because the players on the pitch, the midfielders, this includes James Rodriguez, by the way, Decore, Davies, Gomes. I don't know whether it was because they thought, the runs from Richarlison and Dominic Calvert-Lewin weren't good enough, but the amount of times I saw Richarlison bursting down that left-hand side, and I mean bursting down that left-hand side, absolutely free on his own, and yet Wan-Bissaka's a very good defender, and he probably could have caught up to him, but there was a lot of room, there was a lot of space for Richarlison down that left-hand side on about 3, 4, 5 occasions in the first half, and whether it be James who had the ball in the centre of the park, whether it be Decore, whether it be Gomes, you really would have expected, especially Gomes and James, maybe not Decore as much, but especially Gomes and James, to find Richarlison with those balls, because what we've noticed, certainly in the last 6 months since James Rodriguez has been an Everton player, and in the last couple of weeks for Andre Gomes, that if they pick the ball up in that midfield position and they see a runner, they see Dominic Calvert-Lewin making a darting run, they see Richarlison darting down the left-hand side, or Luca Dean, etc., they're going to put that ball over to them, and more often than not, it's going to be put right on the feet of the player. Andre Gomes done it against Leeds for the opening goal. He puts it right over the top. Luca Dean takes a fantastic touch, puts it into the box, and Gylfi Sigurdsson scores the opener. James Rodriguez has done it on a number of occasions. Near enough every Everton game he plays in, he's pinging that ball to the left-hand side, he's pinging it to the right-hand side. But for some reason, and I can't really put my finger on it, but for some reason in this game, as soon as we went 1-0 down, despite the amount of fantastic runs that Richarlison was making, despite the fact that Dom was creating space for himself, every time we got the ball in that midfield, we just seemed to want to go backwards. We seemed to just, and I don't know whether it was because the ball was caught in the feet a couple of times. There was a couple of occasions where I think James just got the ball caught in his feet, and then he was closed down quite quickly, so the easiest option was to play back. But again, like I said, there was a lot of dart and forward runs made by specifically Richarlison, and I made the point of saying that in the instant match reaction, because I think at the end of the game, there'd have been a lot of fans that would have probably looked at Richarlison's performance and gone, well, you missed a great opportunity in the second half. Okay, you worked hard, but again, you're not really getting in the right areas, you're not really doing what you're supposed to be doing. But I have to stick up for Richarlison in this case, because all as he can do is make them runs. I know that when he gets on the ball, he can do a lot more with it, and I know there was a couple of times where he where he got on the ball in the second half and he maybe didn't do as much as he could have done with it, but there's only so much that lad can do, and in the first half he made 4 or 5 or 6 absolutely amazing runs down that left hand side, and whether it was James, whether it was Gomez, whether it was Decore, they just didn't find him, they just didn't put that ball over, and ultimately, like I said, that for me it was frustrating. It really, really was frustrating, because at this point we were only 1-0 down to a Manchester United side who again, like I said, are susceptible to defensive mistakes, can make defensive errors, and ultimately, okay, again, they're very good going forward, and they can hit teams, and they can get forward, and they can play good football, but if you've got the ball in the midfield, certainly with the likes of James Rodriguez on it, you're putting your house on him, spraying that ball to the left-hand side, and even an out of form Richarlison, or a Richarlison who isn't particularly confident, if he's running at a defender, again, okay, he's not been in great form recently, and a lot of times in recent weeks and stuff, he's been wasteful with the ball, and maybe he hasn't done as much as he could do with it. But there's going to be one time, there's going to be one game where Richarlison gets that ball in that left-hand side, and he does exactly what he did against Crystal Palace a year ago today. It's been a year today since Everton played Crystal Palace at Goodison Park. One of the most memorable games of last season, one of the most memorable games of recent times, because it was one of the best games at Goodison Park recently, and obviously we haven't been at Goodison Park many a times in the last year or so because of what's going on at the moment, and certainly we haven't been there in full capacity. But that Crystal Palace game was a great game of football. It was known for, again, they pulled it back to 1-1 and we ran away with it. A young lad ran onto the pitch at full time, and Dominic Calvert-Lewin gave him a shirt. But one thing that was most noticeable in that game was Richarlison picked the ball up from basically the halfway line. It was headed on by Dom. Richarlison picked it up and he ran, and he ran and he ran and he ran, and he tore, I think it was Gary Cahill, a completely new backside, and he slotted it into the bottom corner. And yes, he hasn't been on that type of form this season, and yes, he hasn't been doing that as much as we would like him to, but it's only going to be a matter of time before Richarlison picks that ball up on that left hand side and drives and slots it into the bottom corner. He's obviously quite low on confidence at the moment, and I don't think that was the reason as to why the ball wasn't played over to him. I don't think James looked over and thought, oh, that's Richarlison, he's not very confident at the moment, I won't play it to him. I think the ball was just caught in the feet on a couple of occasions, and the easiest option was to go back. But again, that sort of adds to that feeling of that we sort of feared Manchester United, and we gifted them far too much respect, and we didn't want to play that long ball over the top because they don't play a long ball, so why should we play a long ball? And I think that's what Carlo Ancelotti done at half time, is he got them in the dressing room at half time and he said, look, you do what you can to get something out of this game, be it a long ball, be it running across the box and slotting it in for Decore, you do what you can to get something out of this game of football, and ultimately that's what we did. But like I said, I wanted to bring that up because I think it's important. It is important, because if you're going to analyse a player like Richarlison and you're going to say, oh yeah, he didn't do enough in the second half, well, he wasn't really in the game again, you'd have to look at the runs that he's making in the first half, that he's not being picked out with, that he's not being played to. And I do think that was a case of respecting Manchester United too much, and maybe fearing that they could come forward and hit us on the counter-attack. And maybe we just wanted to keep the ball a little bit more in the midfield. Maybe we didn't want to play a long ball, which could have potentially given away possession and invited more pressure. Maybe we just wanted to keep a hold of the ball a little bit more, but the reality of the situation was we didn't really keep a hold of the ball a little bit more. Even when we were passing it from the midfield to the defence, we were just giving it away again, and they were breaking forward and pressurising us in numbers. Anyway, let's get into the live comments then before we continue on. If you're enjoying the stream, by the way, so far, please do hit that like button. If you're new to the channel, don't forget to subscribe as well. Joel says, Cam, it's only 11:30. It is, mate, it is, but we're in the swing of things, of course, day off work. So I thought, let's sit down and let's talk about the roller coaster of emotions that was Saturday night. Creeper Boy says, hi, thought it was meant to be 12:30. That's what it said. Yeah, it did say 12:30, but I made myself a cup of tea. I'd been in the bath. I was sitting there and thought, no, you know what? We'll start a little bit early. So It was meant to be 12:30. I apologise about that one. He also says Godfrey is our best player. Changed my mind. Again, put in another really solid performance on Saturday. Wasn't as good as he's been in recent weeks, but was very, very solid. I say he wasn't as good. He wasn't as involved as he's been in recent weeks, but he still didn't put a foot wrong. Everton now says, yes, Cam, yes, mate, how you doing? Keeper Boy says Godfrey has to play every single game for the rest of the season. I couldn't agree more, mate. Ian says Carlo must have thought that Yerry Mina needed a break. We don't want him breaking down injured. Well, exactly, mate. And look, like I said, it was no surprise to see squad rotation on Saturday night for me. Carlo Ancelotti said in his pre-game press conference, I'll rotate the squad. It keeps everyone motivated. It keeps everyone fit. It keeps everyone injury-free. And he rotated the squad. Michael Keane wasn't dropped for the Leeds game. He was taken out for a rest because he knew that he was going to start against Manchester United. And I almost think that decision was made prior to Saturday night, probably prior to Friday night. In fact, I think the decision to have Michael Keane play the United game and Yerry Mina sit on the bench was probably made last week before the Leeds game. Carlo Ancelotti probably sat down with both players and said, right, Yerry's going to play the Leeds game, Michael will play the United game, Yerry will play the Tottenham game, and then we'll see where we are after that. So don't be surprised if Yerry Mina starts against Tottenham on Wednesday. And to be fair, I think Yerry Mina does need to start against Tottenham on Wednesday because Harry Kane's just coming back into, back from injury, and he's a big physical presence. We know how he likes to, duck underneath balls and and endanger players, but we know how big he is of a physical presence, and they're going to be throwing balls into the box. So it wouldn't have surprised me if that decision was made prior to the game. And like you said, it was rotation, and it was rotation to avoid injury. Keeper Boy says, do we know anything about Alan, Gbamin and Pickford? Not yet, mate. Carlo's press conference is tomorrow, I believe. I assume Jordan will be fit, just because he said it's not a long injury, but again, we don't know. Alan, I would, if I was a betting man, which I'm not a betting man, but if I was a betting man, I'd put my money on Alan to be fit for Saturday, or for the weekend against Fulham. He may be available for tomorrow's game, for Wednesday's game, but I wouldn't be putting my money on him starting, if I'm being honest with you. And Gbamin, I don't think Gbamin will be fit until the end of the season, to be honest with you, mate. I think maybe the club will look at him and assess him at the end of the season and think, right, okay, now you're ready to start getting involved with the first team. But Carlo said we don't want to rush him back, so I wouldn't be holding me breath on Gbamin. Uden says, I think Alan will be back for the Everton-Tottenham game. Everton Blues says, hey Cam, love the vids, mate. Carlo's team talk at half-time, worked and what a performance in the second half, you're spot on. Ian says, the Spurs and Fulham, do Spurs and Fulham and I'll be doing cartwheels, exactly, mate. Wayne says, bit early for you, bud, hope you're well. I'm good, mate, I'm good. He says, definitely need a world-class keeper in the summer, priority. But we're going to talk about Robin Olsen a little bit later on. He also says, have a good week, Blues, going to Wembley, or are we, lol, COVID and all? Well, we'll see. We'll see the results on Wednesday first, and then we can have that conversation. Ian says, think our heads went a bit after Rashford's cross was absolutely on the button. I agree, mate, they did. Manuel says, if we beat Fulham and draw with City, we will get ahead of Liverpool just before the derby. James Rodriguez says, Everton 1-3-all. It felt like that, mate. Everton Blues says, Andre Gomes was back to his best. And Manuel says, maybe we should prioritise league and play the bench this Wednesday. I don't think we will. I think he'll play a full team, strength team on Wednesday. I think, he knows how important the FA Cup is. And Ian Kroll from he's a reporter. He put out a tweet yesterday. What would you rather, Blues win the FA Cup or compete or finish in the Champions League, finish in the top four? And I said, unless we're winning the league, I'd rather win the FA Cup. If we win the league, then yeah, great, absolutely. But again, that's a stretch and quite unrealistic. So I'd rather win the FA Cup. In fact, I'd rather win the FA Cup than finish second, to be honest with you, because we're a club who is so desperate for silverware. And if we finish second this season, then we go on to win it next season, then great, absolutely. But there's no guarantee of that. We could finish second this season and then finish 8th next season. So I'd rather win a cup, because we are so desperate for a cup, cup glory. We haven't had it in my lifetime, and I'm 22 years old. So anyway, like I said, heads dropped a little bit. I completely agree with Ian in the comments there. Heads absolutely dropped a little bit when they scored their first goal. And it was so frustrating because it was a silly goal to concede. The ball comes up, Michael Keane gets under it, and Cavani's got a free header at the back post, which he's always scoring. He's absolutely always scoring. And then we did give them too much respect for me. Quite simply, we did give them too much respect. We allowed them to move the ball around. We allowed them to play their nice football. We allowed them to get forward. We allowed, for some reason, we allowed Bruno Fernandez, all the time on the ball. We allowed Bruno Fernandez to just completely control the game. It was something that Carlo Ancelotti had obviously spoken about prior to this game because the lad only had 2 touches in the opening 20 minutes and he was very, 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 very easily dealt with. But as soon as we went 1-0 down, I just think the game plan went to pot. And obviously the rest of the first half wasn't very good whatsoever, and the inevitable happened, didn't it? You know, the player who we least wanted to score, I really don't like him. I really, really don't like him. But the player who we least wanted to score, first of all, ball comes across to him and he completely leaves it nonchalantly, and I'm sitting there thinking, you arrogant little... I don't want to get myself in trouble, but you're thinking the arrogance of the lads, just let it run past. Not like he's looked and he's gone, go on, you get it. He's just let it move past him as if he's just the best thing since sliced bread. And then it comes back to him and you're thinking, right, okay, he's going to put a cross into the box here, close him down. Tom Davies just sort of stands on the box and cocks his leg up twice, and then Fernandez hits it from outside the box, and look, I've seen the goal again a couple of times, and maybe it is a quality strike of a football, and maybe because of my dislike to Bruno Fernandez, because I think he's a horrible snide footballer, he's a very, very good footballer at that. And like I said, every team needs a snide footballer, and it's all good having someone who's horrible, but if they're horrible and boss a football, then you know, they're going to be a success. Look at all of the best footballers in the world. You know, Lionel Messi's a snide footballer, and look at what he's done because he's absolutely quality. Bruno Fernandez, not comparing him to Lionel Messi, obviously, but very snide footballer. But he pulls things out like that. But even after watching the goal and the replay 2 or 3 times, I still think Robin Olsen should do better. Now, I have people in the comments saying, look, Robin Olsen isn't at fault for the 3rd goal, which we'll talk about a little bit later on. And, you know, it's harsh to give him criticism for Bruno Fernandez's strike. It was a great strike, and it was a great strike. But ultimately, Bruno Fernandez has picked that ball up on the edge of our box. Nobody's bothered to run at him, by the way. I think even on the 3rd goal where Olsen gets his feet stuck and should do a lot better, I think defensively we've skated past the fact that 4 or 5 Everton players are standing around Scott McTominay, and it almost looks like they lift them up as if it's rugby to head the ball. But again, why isn't anybody breaking him down? Why isn't anybody running at him? Why isn't anybody putting pressure on that? If there's anything that Manchester United did in that first half that Everton didn't, was every time we had the ball, they ran at us, they put pressure on us, and they pressurised in numbers. 2 or 3 Man United players on an Everton player every time we had the ball, and that forced us to go backwards. That forced James Rodriguez to not be able to ping balls across to Luka Dean, or ping them across to Richarlison, or ping them to Dominic Calvert-Lewin, because every time we had the ball in the midfield, they just put pressure on us, they chased us down and they pressurised us, and we done that really well in the opening 20-25 minutes, and then as soon as we conceded the first goal, we just allowed Bruno Fernandez all the time in the world to do what he wanted. We allowed Marcus Rashford to run around. We allowed Mason Greenwood to get in attacking areas, and that was the big mistake for Everton in that first half. Not only did our game plan go to pot a little bit and we just sort of panicked, but we allowed Manchester United to get their best players on the ball and to get their best players creating, and it's always going to be difficult when you allow a team who are as good as Man United going forward to have their best players just walking around with the ball and creating opportunities. And anyway, he gets the ball on the edge of the box. Tom Davies doesn't break him down. Nobody runs at him. He sees the goal and he basically chips it over Robin Olsen. And like I said, I expect better from Robin Olsen. I do. I'm not going to sit here and lie. I expect better from Robin Olsen. For a goalkeeper who is, 6'4" maybe, plus. I don't know the exact height, but 6'4" plus. I expect more from him. I think he's a little bit too forward off his line. And I think if he's a couple of steps back to start with, and that ball is... In fact, I think, for a start, if he's a couple of steps back to start with, Bruno Fernandez doesn't try the effort because he knows the keeper's on his line. Bruno Fernandez tries that shot because he's looking, thinking, he's a couple of yards off his line here, and if I can get the right distance and the right height on it and the right dip, he's not going to be able to get back in time, and he's going to try and dive for it, and by that point, you know, it's in the back of the net. So I actually think if Robin Olsen's a couple of steps backwards, Bruno Fernandez doesn't try the shot. But even if he does try the shot and he's a couple of steps backwards, he only has to take another step backwards and he catches that virtually, or he tips it past the post, or he, you know, knocks it down. It's not a shot hit with a load of power. It's not like he's rifled it into the top corner with a load of power. He's literally dinked it over him. And like I said, I'm just trying to be honest, and I'm just trying to be fair, and I think if that's Jordan Pickford who concedes that, we're sitting here screaming about how his arms aren't long enough, or how he should do better, or how it's a silly goal to concede. So you have to give the same criticism to Robin Olsen. Yes, it was a very good strike of a football. Yes, it was very calm and calculated, and yes, it was pinch perfect in terms of where he wanted it to go and where it did go. But I just don't think Robin Olsen, I don't think he helped himself with his positioning, to be honest with you. And maybe you could say, well, if he's positioned a little bit to the right-hand side, then he might save that. But Bruno might have gone, the other corner, and then we'd have said, we should have been more centrally. Again, football is a sport of if, buts and maybes. But I just personally think he could have done better positional-wise for that. But it's a good strike. Like I said, anyone but him. It's 2-0 to Manchester United. We're going into half-time. And not only have we completely capitulated after conceding the first, but we'd allowed them all the time, all the space, all the chances to get the ball forward, and they'd score the second just before the half-time whistle. And I was really thinking at that point, right, okay, I don't see us getting back into the game. And I tweeted that, and I haven't deleted the tweet, and there's a reason I haven't deleted the tweets, is because I've said it before, football is a sport for contradiction. We all contradict ourselves constantly. If you weren't watching that game on Saturday and at 2-0 down, you didn't think we're not getting back into this game, then you haven't been watching Everton for very long, because the way in which we were playing in that first half was atrocious. The shape went to shit. The midfield, in terms of progress and passes, went to shit. The runs Richarlison was making, he was getting more and more frustrated. Defensively, we were put under a lot of pressure. I think Mason Holgate really struggled throughout that first half, and even in the second half at times as well. I think he got caught a couple of times. Ben Godfrey done okay, but again, wasn't as commanding as he usually is. Michael Keane wasn't as commanding. Aerial balls were really, really threatening us, and that's where you miss somebody like a Yerry Mina, who's so good in the air. That was hurting us. And I sat there at half-time and I thought, 2-0, we've just felt a bit, we've given them far too much respect. I don't see us getting back into the game. I don't see us getting hammered, but I don't see us getting back into the game. Anyway, we'll talk about the second half in a moment, because, look, it was mental. It was absolutely mental, wasn't it? But let's get into the comments. If you are enjoying, please do hit that like button. 35 people watching. If you could, share the video, and let's get as many people in here as possible. I understand that, a lot of people are working or doing the school work or got other things to do, and they don't want to sit here and listen to me ramble on a Monday afternoon. But if you could share the stream, it would mean a great deal. A massive thanks to everybody in the comments for now. I really, really do appreciate all of your support. Honestly, it means a massive amount to me. Manuel says Everton and bench. Yeah, we've got a bench. And I want to talk about one of those players who come off the bench a little bit later on. Christian says, Andre Gomez, continue your form, mate. Yeah, he was very, very good again. Very, very good again on Saturday. Certainly in that second half when we sort of come to light a little bit. Ian says, play the strongest team for the cup. We wanted Sophie for the old lady. I agree. Christian says, and Richarlison will pick up his confidence. Couldn't agree more, mate. Ian says, really don't want to hear Spurs saying we win it when your year ends in one again. Manuel says, we play Spurs, City and Liverpool all within 14 days. Madness. It certainly is madness, mate. Again, the fixture list hasn't been kind to Everton, but anybody that believes the fixtures are randomised is just on another land, because they're clearly, at the start of the season, mid-season, they're made on purpose. Niall says, Godfrey better left-back, but we have Luca Dean, so have to play him centre-back. Well, I think Luca Dean's an exceptional left-back, and we've seen that at times on Saturday, certainly in the first half, in the second half, which we'll talk about in a second. Niall says, even though he is a centre-back, he is better playing full-back. I think he maybe has looked more comfortable recently, but again, he looked really comfortable at centre-back against Leeds. Ben Godfrey, he started at centre-back against Leeds, and he looked really, really comfortable. And again, he wasn't as commanding, he wasn't as in control on Saturday, but I still think he's capable of doing a really good job at centre-back. Hammond says, would you rather playing Spurs away? Well, at the moment, our away form is much, much better than our home form, so I'd rather play anyone away, but again, we need to improve our home form. If we don't beat Fulham on the weekend, there's a serious problem. Look, the Spurs game is going to be difficult, because we're coming up against a strong Tottenham Hotspur side in a cup competition, which could go either way, we know that. But if we don't beat Fulham on the weekend, then we've got an issue. Fabi says, hi from New Jersey. Is James Rodriguez hurt? Will he be able to play? Well, he seemed to be signalling to Carlo Ancelotti when he come off, or before he come off, that he had a slight injury. Carlo was asked about this in his post-game interview, and he said, I think he felt a sort of tight calf. He actually was due to come off before he scored the equalizer. And obviously he's having a little conversation with Carlo when he's come off. Hopefully, Carlo said we've brought him off as a precaution so it doesn't get any worse into to avoid injury. So hopefully, James has said, look, I need to come off here, otherwise I'm going to be injured. And the fact that he did come off means that he'll be okay for Wednesday. Christine says, Cam, do you think top 4 is a possibility? I really do think it's somewhat possible. And what do you think of Harry Kane being fit to play us? To play for Spurs against us? I think it's a possibility, mate. Yeah, definitely. Given the results of sides that are in and around and fighting for the top 4 this season, it's definitely a possibility. But we have to add a little bit more consistency now. We've got an unbelievable away record, that, again, other than maybe Man United themselves, I think we might have the best away record in the league. 7 wins out of 11, 2 draws, 2 losses is an exceptional record this season, and I think we're unbeaten in 7. But we need to sort our home record out, because you look at our home record, and already this year, we're only in February, we've lost to Newcastle and West Ham United at home. And West Ham are on decent form at the moment and a decent side, but no team that are fighting for European football should be losing to those 2 sides. And that's no disrespect to those 2 sides, but if you've got real ambition of playing in the Champions League, you can't lose your home games like that. So the Fulham game's a massive game for me, absolutely massive, because we need to prove that we can go out at Goodison Park and comfortably beat teams. I don't want to, I'd take beating Fulham 2-1 in the last second, obviously, because I'd take 3 points, but I want us to go out and put in a really strong performance, go and blow someone away, like we did with Sheffield Wednesday in the FA Cup a couple of weeks ago. But anyway, getting into the second half then, we go in at half time. I think everybody's sort of feeling defeated. Everybody's sort of feeling like, right, that's game over. We've come up against the better side. And again, I said it on Friday, I can take losing if we turn up and we put in a performance and we work hard and we fight and we battle. But at half time on Saturday, that wasn't the case. We'd put in a good 20 minutes. They'd scored a sloppy goal, let's be perfectly honest with you, and then we'd felt a bit. We just absolutely felt a bit. We gave them far too much respect, we allowed them far too much time on the ball, and we just gifted them chances and chances and chances, and we didn't do anything with the ball when we had it. We just give it away. And that was the frustrating thing, is that, again, conceding 2 goals in the first half at Old Trafford, sorry, isn't the worst thing in the world. That isn't, oh my God, the world's over. They're a good attacking side, but completely capitulating and falling to bits and not really having that confidence to pick ourselves up was disappointing to see. But we all knew it was going to take a massive, massive team talk from Carlo Ancelotti at half-time, and I even thought it'd take changes. I wanted to see Iwobi come on. I wanted to see Josh King come on to inject a bit of pace, to inject a bit of energy in this Everton team. We didn't see any changes at half-time. And at that point, I was sitting there thinking, right, okay, Carlo needs to have absolutely rattled these at our time. And I went back to something that Alex Iwobi said a couple of days ago prior to the United game, and he was asked about the Newcastle result and the Leeds result, and he said, look, maybe we took our foot off the gas a little bit in the Newcastle game, and the manager let us know that wasn't good enough. The manager let us know that if we want to be a side that are challenging for Europe, we can't afford to take our foot off the gas even against the smaller sides. And then we turned up against Leeds and we put in a good performance and we worked hard and we battled and we fought for every shade. I honestly think Carlo Ancelotti will have had a very similar team talk at half-time as to what he had after the Newcastle game, and that would have been, listen, you want to compete at the top end of the league, these are the sides at the top end of the league, these are the sides that are fighting for a league title, but again, definitely in a fight for top 4. You can't go out and put in a performance like that. You can't go out and completely fold when you can see the silly goal. You can't go out and just be defeated. Go out and show some desire, show some fight, show some energy. Show what you showed in the first half against Leeds, where you've got that no fear mentality of just, we're going to pick the ball up and we're going to get forward and we're going to exploit your issues because you've exploited ours, so we're going to get forward and we're going to exploit yours. And like I said, the second half was just a completely different animal. It was a masterclass by Carlo Ancelotti, and far too long at Everton Football Club under previous managers have we seen first half performances that if it's been dreadful, the second half's not going to be much better. And don't get me wrong, we've seen very good first half performances under Carlo and not so good second half performances, but if it's not going well in the first half, very rarely do we not have a reaction in the second half. And we've seen that even in games, game by game, as if we've lost a game of football, we usually bounce back strong in the next game. We did it after the West Ham game, we bounced back strong and beat Wolves away from home. We done it after the Newcastle defeat, we bounced back and beat a difficult Leeds side away from home as well. Again, we come into the United game at half time, and we've allowed them far too much time, we've allowed them far too much respect, we've allowed them far too much, energy and time on the ball in the middle of the park. And we've gone in at half time, and Carlo's obviously sat down with them, and maybe Big Dunk's had a word as well and said, what are you doing? Why are you fearing this Manchester United side? Is it because they beat Southampton 9-0 last week, who also just decided to give up halfway through the game? That was embarrassing. Don't do that. Don't give up halfway through a game of football. There's still 45 minutes to go here. Carlo said in his post-game press conference, or interview, that he didn't think the first half was that bad. We conceded 2 poor defensive goals, but it wasn't that bad overall. Now, I'd disagree slightly, because I think we completely just fell to bits after we conceded the opener. But again, we weren't overrun massively. I mean, we defended okay. Yes, the 2 goals were silly to concede, but we defended all right. Wasn't as good as we have been defending, and the likes of Mason Holgate, I think, struggled. But Carlo had obviously gone in at half time and gone, what's going on here? Why are you afraid? Why are you fearing this Manchester United side? They're not all of that. Defensively, we haven't put them under any pressure whatsoever. Look at Annie Maguire 3 weeks ago, against Sheffield United. They can be hurt, they can be pressurised, and Dominic Calvert-Lewin, had an interview with Sky Sports, and he was asked what the change was, because it was such a different second half, and he said, well, the manager made a tactical change a couple of minutes into the second half, and I think Carlo did make a tactical change a couple of minutes into the second half. I think we changed the formation slightly, and I think we changed the way in which we played, but I also don't think that tactical change come with everyone sit down at half time and let's just have a nice drink of our Lucozade and talk. I think it come with sort your shit out, because that's not good enough, and we need to go out there, and if we're going to get something out of this game, we need to really put our foot on the gas. And that's the admiration I have for this Everton side, and that's the amount of pride I feel in this Everton team, is that we've been 2-0 down at Old Trafford at half time in a game in which we'd very much looked dead and buried. Certainly in that last 15 minutes of the second half, they were all over us, and we just didn't look like we wanted to get forward, and we'd come out and we'd show that fight, we'd show that pride to play for this team. It'd like they'd all gone out and gone, you know what, no, we're better than that, and we're going to show that we're better than that. Within 5 minutes, in fact, within a couple of minutes of the second half, we could see already that we were getting forward. We wanted to get back into the game. We were playing with more of an attacking threat. We were playing with a bit more confidence, and I think it was pointed out on commentary is this Everton team isn't playing like a team that are 2-0 down at Old Trafford. It's not playing like a team who are fearing Manchester United. It's playing like a team who have got a point to prove and to get back into this game. And like I said, the desire, the fight, the heart, and the never give up attitude that we showed in that second half, certainly at the end of the game for the equaliser, but in that opening 10 minutes was absolutely amazing to see. And the amount of pride that I had when James Rodriguez put that ball in the back of the net for 2-2, is it was almost like that whole 45 minutes has been completely thrown to the wall, because in the first 10 minutes of the second half, we're right back into this game here, and we're right back into, potentially going on and even getting the 3 points. Now, again, you can look at this many a different way. You can say, well, that makes it more frustrating because, we could have done that in the first half and wouldn't have, been 2-0 down in the first place. You could equally say when it went 2-2, we should have continued on that attack and play and maybe gone for the win. But firstly, like I said, we come out firing. Tom Davies, who plays an absolutely excellent ball, and I didn't mention this in the instant match reaction, and to be honest with you, I feel embarrassed and I want to apologise. I absolutely want to apologise, because this pass from Tom Davies is pitch perfect. It is unbelievable, and I said it before, Tom Davies was excellent on Saturday. He was absolutely excellent, and maybe my initial judgment in the player ratings etc was because of how disappointed I was in that first half performance, and the fact that how disappointed I was that we conceded a third, and a silly third to concede. But individually, Tom Davies was exceptional on Saturday, absolutely exceptional. He won a lot of balls back when we didn't have possession. He brought us forward. His passing was really, really good. He was doing the simple bits. And that ball to Dominic Calvert-Lewin is absolutely perfect. He plays Dom straight in. Dom takes it wide a little bit. Obviously makes it a tight angle. And I want to talk about Abdoulaye Doucouré for a second, because we spoke on Thursday about Gylfi Sigurdsson's direct run into the box, and Gylfi Sigurdsson, making that run right into the dangerous area. And, ultimately, being on the end of Luca Dean's cross in the first 20 minutes against Leeds. But I want to talk about Abdoulaye Doucouré's dart and run, because one thing we seen in that Leeds game was an Abdoulaye Doucouré who was playing as almost like a box-to-box midfielder. And we haven't seen that an awful lot since he's been at Everton Football Club, and that's not his fault. That is because tactics that Carlo Ancelotti's put out has meant that Abdoulaye Doucouré has had to maybe sort of adopt the defensive duties more so than his attacking duties, and I also think the injury to Alan hasn't helped that. I think as soon as Alan got injured and before Carlo started to put that faith and trust in Tom Davies to step in and do the Alan job, I think Doucouré was pretty much told, right, you're going to have to do a job of two people here. You're going to have to sit back, do the defensive duties, get the ball forward, but your main focus is to make sure that the opposition team doesn't get in behind us, that you're picking the ball up on the edge of our box, and that you're giving it to Sigurdsson or James or Calvert-Lewin or whatever else, and they do the attack and you just focusing on the defending. Whereas the more and more that Tom Davies has played, and the more and more that Tom Davies is impressed, and the more that Carlo Ancelotti's been impressed with Tom Davies, I think Carlo has sat down with both Tom and Doucouré and said, look, you can do the Alan role now, Tom. You sit there and you take the ball off off opposition players on the edge of our box, and you the player that breaks the play up. And Abdoulaye, you can focus more on being that box-to-box midfielder. You can get in those danger areas. You can drive the ball forward. And I feel like I said in the first half, the midfield just all sort of got in the way of each other a little bit, and individually they were okay, but they weren't spacing themselves out. They weren't picking up one role for themselves and just excelling in that role. They were all sort of trying to do the same thing. Whereas that second half, Tom slotted back into that Alan-esque role where he's just picking the ball up and doing what he needs to do, exactly like Alan does. And it allowed Abdoulaye Doucouré to do what he did against Leeds and do what he's done for a couple of weeks now, and that's be that box-to-box midfielder. Break forward, create chances, get it to Dom, get it to Calvert-Lewin, get it to James, constantly come forward. He was involved in 2 goals in the first 10 minutes of the second half because he was given that freedom to get forward. The first goal, like I said, unbelievable ball by Tom Davies down that left hand side, completely takes out about 4 Man United players. Dom gets on the end of it, cuts in. Listen, David De Gea pretty much passes it to Abdoulaye Doucouré. It's a shocking defensive goal. If I'm a Man United fan, then I want De Gea out. We can talk all we like about Everton needing a new goalkeeper and, Jordan Pickford making mistakes and Robin Olsen not having his greatest of games, but David De Gea was dreadful. Absolutely dreadful on Saturday, and to think that some of their fans still think he's the best goalkeeper in the world, you need to get in the bath and wash your face, mate, because he's nowhere near. And again, like I said, it's not the fastest of balls in by Dominic Calvert-Lewin, but I think Dom realises that he's running it out, so he just stabs at it, puts it into the danger area. De Gea basically palms it into the way of Doucouré, and Doucouré, who's made that dart and run from midfield, he sensed the danger. He's probably looked around and thought, right, at this point, James is probably feeling his calf a little bit, so James probably isn't wanting to make that dart and run. Richarlison, again, has done a defensive duties, I think, so he's still trying to get back into position. Dom's on his own here, and not only is Dom on his own, but he's in a position where he's not going to score from because it's far too tight of an angle, so I'm going to make that bollock busting run and I'm going to get into that position, and he does. And luckily enough for Everton, the ball bounces off David De Gea, who practically just says to Doucouré, yeah, have a go, and Doucouré gets a touch on it, and it's a simple finish into the back of the net. And all of a sudden, 5 minutes into the second half, the momentum is with Everton now. We're back into the game, we've gotten back into it, we've taken the first goal, we've got the first goal of the second half. Go again now, don't sort of let this slip. Don't allow them 10 or 15 minutes to get back into this game. Keep the pressure up. Continue. And that's what we did. Couple of minutes later again, ball goes out to Lucas Digne, who plays a really good ball into the box, to be fair to Lucas Digne. I think it's headed out by, might be Lindelof. Doucouré chases it at the back post. Again, excellent ball in. Fizzes it in to James Rodriguez. And this finish by James Rodriguez isn't talked about enough. It really, really isn't. Now, you're probably going to sit there and say, Cam, you're only talking about it that much because you love James. And I do. I think James Rodriguez is absolutely excellent. He is just unbelievable. That lad... Mate, that lad is another level of footballer. And don't get me wrong, it's a very, very good ball in by Abdoulaye Doucouré, but it's fizzed in by Abdoulaye Doucouré. It's absolutely fizzed in with power. James controls it with his left foot. But it's brilliant control, by the way, because he doesn't stop it, and he could have stopped it dead. James could have stopped that dead quite comfortably because he's a world-class footballer. If he wanted to stop that ball dead when it come into him from Doucouré, he could have easily, but he doesn't. It's fizzed in. And what James does, and this shows his technical ability, and I might be chatting shit here. You might say, don't be stupid, Cam, you're chatting shit, it was a reaction touch. So if you feel like that, let me know in the comments, and we will get back into the comments in a second. But the ball is fizzed in by Doucouré, and James' touch is perfect. Absolutely perfect, and I'll tell you why. Because the ball's hit in with some power, it's hitting with some pace, it's hitting with some energy. What James does, instead of stopping it dead, because I think he's thinking, if I stop this dead, and this is all going on, by the way, in about 0.6 seconds in his head, because it happens so quickly, but I think he's probably thought, if I stop this dead, then I'm going to have to adjust my feet quicker to get a shot off. And the likelihood is, by the time I've had time to adjust my feet, they'll have either come at me and, taken the ball off me, or they'll have got somebody in the way of the ball to block it, or alternatively, David De Gea will have known that this is only going in one place and he'll have covered that corner and made the save. He doesn't. He touches it up, so it basically rolls up his calf, comes up, drops back down, and then he volleys it into the back of the net. And like I said, it's exceptional. And it won't get talked about on BT because it's not Bruno Fernandez. If it was Bruno Fernandez, they'd still be talking about it now. If it was anybody else who played for any of them other clubs, they'd still be talking about it now. In fact, I'd have put Loose Women on this morning and Davina McCall would have been sitting there talking about it now if it had been anyone else. But because it's James and he plays for Everton, they won't mention it. But James says in the comments, and we will get back in the comments in a second, James says his touch was unreal. First thing I noticed, it was absolutely exceptional. Because the shot from Decore, the pass from Decore, wasn't a nice sort of calm ball in. It was fizzed at him, and his touch is excellent. It comes up his calf, it runs down. It comes up his calf, it falls back down, he hits it on the volley, and no goalkeeper in world football is saving it because that happens within, like I said, a split second. The ball coming into the box to the touch from James to the goal, it's all happening in a second. And within a second, Everton are back in the game. It's an excellent finish by James Rodriguez. It's a brilliant ball in by Decore. It's an excellent 10 minutes for Decore, who scored the first and made the second, and we're back in the game. And like I said, a couple of minutes later, James goes off. You do see him having a conversation with Carlo. The fear there is he injured? And hopefully he's not. Hopefully when we hear from Carlo Ancelotti tomorrow in his pre-game press conference, we hear that James was just a precautionary. But from Carlo's post-game interview after the United game, he did say, look, it was just a case of, he'd felt his calf a little bit. He'd felt it before the goal for the start, so he was coming off. He was getting ready to come off, and then, he scored, and we didn't want to take any risks on him. So he come off. Again, like I said, didn't have as great as the first half, James Rodriguez. As much as I love him and as big of a fan I am as him, I'm not going to sit here and, say his first half was exceptional. It wasn't. I think there was a couple of times where he got the ball stuck under his feet when he should have done better. But that's what you get with James, is you get a ball fizzed across the box, he touches it like it's a piece of paper, and he slots it into the bottom corner, and he gets you back into the game. And maybe a little bit of frustration come from that, because in that opening 15 minutes, not from the goal, but in that opening 15 minutes of that second half, we were so energetic. We had the desire, we had the fight, we had the energy. Decore was getting forward, he'd scored and created one. James Rodriguez had put the ball in the back of the net exceptionally. Dominic Calvert-Lewin was getting involved, obviously made the first goal. I forgot to mention in the first half as well, Dom had a really, really good chance at 2-0 up, where he goes one-on-one with David De Gea, and the offside flag goes up, but he takes the shot anyway. The game obviously was allowed to play on, and if he'd have scored, it would have gone to VAR, and it would have been onside because he was comfortably onside. But again, he gets one-on-one with De Gea, and he puts it wide, and it was sort of flashbacks of Leeds on Wednesday, where you're sitting thinking, you have to do better there, Dom. You absolutely have to do better. Little instant finishes where the ball drops to him, and like the third goal, he's exceptional at. Balls into the box and heading, he's exceptional at. But when he's got time to think about it, when he goes one-on-one with goalkeepers, I think he does need to improve. And he's not the worst player in the world at doing it, because against West Ham in the Cup, at the start of the season, I think he had 2 goals where he was played in one-on-one, one where he dinked it over the goalkeeper and one where he slotted it brilliantly. And we've seen before, Dominic Calvert-Lewin's first 2 years at Everton, most of the goals he scored was being played in one-on-one in front of goalkeepers and slotting them brilliantly. And he wasn't scoring those goals where he gets into the right areas, where he's getting into the back post, where he's winning headers in the area. Now he's doing all of the rest of it, and he seems to have maybe, I don't want to say lacked, but he seems to have maybe put less priority on one-on-one finishes, and I think he needs to start working on them again, because again, it was very frustrating, because that was the time just before half-time to go in at 2-1 and again have that momentum from the off in the second half. But it didn't really matter, because like I said, we come out fine in the second half and it was exceptional. 2 good goals, what, 10 minutes into the second half, we're back in it, 2-2, and, you know, we're ready to go again, and we'll talk about the rest of the second half in a second. Let's get into the live comments then, before we do so. If you're enjoying the stream, by the way, please do hit that like button. It does only take a second if you're new to the channel. Don't forget to subscribe. If you could share the stream as well, it would mean a great deal to me. I really will appreciate that one. 58 people watching. I know it's early on a Monday, so I really do appreciate all of the support. Arsenal for Life says, I hope Everton gets top 4. Me too, mate. Niall says, I reckon Holgate was poor. He didn't have as great as the games, to be honest. He didn't... Look, he didn't look comfortable, really, at right back. And to be fair to Mason, that's the first time in a while that he's played right back and he hasn't looked comfortable. But he struggled. But he was coming up against some very good attackers, so it's understandable. But he needs to be better. Manuel says, well, we need to beat Fulham and Liverpool. Now is the best moment of the season to play the derby. The Reds are a wounded animal. And James Rodriguez says exactly what I was going to say, beware of a wounded animal. I don't even want to think about the derby, mate. I seen a meme yesterday, and it was the picture was Yerry Mina, and it was Yerry Mina. It was that picture where he's on his knees after the Leeds game, and he's just absolutely ecstatic. And the meme was something along the lines of Everton unbeaten in 7 away games, and Liverpool lost 3 on the bounce at home. Our next away game is the derby, and their next home game obviously is the derby. And I looked at it and I sort of closed Twitter because I just don't want to think about it. I really don't want to think about it because, again, John says, fancy us at this rate against Liverpool. So do I, mate. I absolutely fancy us. And it's not that I'm not confident. It's not that I haven't got the belief in this Everton team or the belief in Carlo Ancelotti. But I just don't want to talk or think about those type of stats until after the derby when we've taken a result. Because we know that stats like that and all of that stuff goes out the window. And as James Rodriguez says, you've got to beware of a wounded animal. And at home, they are a wounded animal. Philip says, if Carlo had kept our usual back line, we'd have won that. I wish we'd stop messing about with the defence. Yeah, potentially. I assume you're talking about Godfrey, Holgate, Mina and Keane. Yeah, maybe, mate, maybe. But again, it's difficult, isn't it? Because someone mentioned in the comments before that if Carlo doesn't take Yerry Mina out and he picks up an injury, maybe Yerry Mina come to Carlo Ancelotti at the end of the Leeds game and said, look, you know, I've had a decent game there, but I'm feeling a little bit tight. Maybe my car's feeling a little bit tight. And like I said, Carlo might have sat down 3 weeks ago and said, right, I've got to alternate the back line. Michael Keane will play 1 week, Yerry Mina will play the next week. I get that there's got to be squad rotation, and I understand that to keep the team fit. And if in the long run, if it means that Yerry Mina doesn't pick up an injury and he's available for every game between now and the end of the season, then obviously we have to swallow it. I'd rather that than him have played on Saturday, picked up a knock, and then would have been out for 5 or 6 weeks because he's exceptional, Yerry Mina, and he's absolutely instrumental to this Everton team now. But I understand where you're coming from, Philip, and it is frustrating because 2 of the 3 goals we conceded, I think, would have been dealt with if Yerry Mina was on the pitch. Luke says, the next West Ham fixture is really important that we win. They're the team keeping us out of the top 5. It certainly is, mate, it certainly is, and it's away from home. We're always better away from home. Craig says, need Richarlison to start fighting for us to finish top 4. He does. Everton Blue says, we've gone 7 unbeaten for the second time this season. Absolutely class. Yeah, mate, we have, and we need to keep up the form now. We need to keep up the form. Ian says, yes, Luke, we can't let money stop us getting into Europe. Philip says, we're back on title form. Shh. Let's not mention that yet. Manuel says, Chelsea is a level with West Ham now and they look more dangerous under Tuchel. I'm less worried about West Ham than them. Fair enough. Evan Budge says, wow, Cam early laugh. See him, we're early, mate. We're on it. Douglas says, I don't understand why Everton agreed to play City next week due to no fault of theirs. That's 4 games in 11 days. Yeah, I agree, mate. I agree. I think I said it in the weekly news roundup on Friday. We spoke about the City game and I think I said, look, if I was Everton, I'd say, nah, we're not playing that. We didn't have any say in postponing the original fixture. Not that it shouldn't have been postponed. I'm not getting into this. They had the COVID outbreak. It was the best decision for everybody. Great. But it's absolutely awful that we weren't involved in those conversations whatsoever. And I think Everton should have stood up when it was announced last week and go, nah, we're not playing them 3 days before a Merseyside derby, a couple of days after a tough game against Fulham and a week after playing, a Tottenham in the FA Cup. No, we're not playing them then. We'll play them at the end of the season when we've got a less pressured fixture. But maybe this will do better for Everton. Look, we've got to play them, and the Premier League have done us over, like they always do us over because they don't care. But we've got to play everybody, and maybe if we go out now, let's say we get a result on Wednesday against Tottenham, which obviously is a massive game. I'm going to be doing the preview to that game a little bit later on in the day. But let's say we get a result on Wednesday, we beat Fulham, we're in the flow of things then. We've taken a good point against Man United. We've got a result against Tottenham. We've beaten Fulham in the league. Maybe that momentum will be able to take us through. Get something against Newcastle. Get something against City and then go into the derby. Maybe we need a run of fixtures constantly now to keep up that momentum. And maybe we don't. And maybe we'll, the result won't be what we want against City. And we'll all be sitting here saying that game should have never have been played. I'll be doing that. Obviously I will, because I don't think it should be played, but maybe the momentum will be good for us, because ultimately, when the game against City was first postponed, we were all made up, because it meant that we had more days rest ahead of the West Ham game, and we all thought we'd turn up for the West Ham game refreshed and ready to go and beat a side that we should have been beaten on the day, and we didn't. We turned up to play West Ham and we were awful. So, who knows? Niall says, Cam, when's Alan back? What would your midfield look like? When Alan's back, my midfield would look like Alan, Decore, and it's hard, isn't it? It's hard, because I really want to see James playing in that midfield, sort of behind the striker, number 10-esque role. But then you look at Gomez, who's been playing fantastically recently. You look at Davis, who's been putting in good performances. So it's difficult, mate. But Alan and Decore are definitely in it. And Decore as a more box-to-box option. That's one thing that I can't wait for Alan when he comes back to bring. Not only does he bring the quality that Alan brings, but the ability for Decore to play a little bit more attacking, because when he's done that this season, we've seen, we've seen how good he can be. Luke says Everton didn't agree, Douglas. Samuel says, hey, we could have won with Mina winning the air game. Potentially, mate. Tashi says, leaving Mina out was probably a mistake. When you look back at how we conceded the 2 goals, I'm pretty sure he would have cleared them. We'll talk about the 3rd goal in a second. And Mama says, Goffrey shouting F off to Maguire was quite funny, but he shouldn't do that as a potential future Everton captain. We don't want him to risk suspension. And Luke says, don't want him to risk suspension. Yeah, but I love passion. He wouldn't have been suspended for that. The amount of players that would scream, swear words at other players on the pitch and even officials on the pitch, he won't be suspended for that. And I agree. I absolutely love the passion. I think considering we'd just scored a last minute equaliser, Ben Goffrey looked like he wanted to turn around and clothesline whoever it was that claimed for the, I assume it was Harry Maguire, but whoever it was that claimed for the a handball or an offside, whatever. Ben Goffrey looked like he wanted to just go and absolutely clothesline them. Which shows the passion and shows the heart and how much it means to Ben. And I love that. I've got not a bad word to say about that. But anyway, like I said, getting back into the game then. We will go back into the live comments in a second. But getting back into the game, we bring it back to 2-2. And maybe there was another tactical change by Carlo Ancelotti. Obviously, we've seen a couple of subs at this point. James went off because he felt like he was had a little bit of a knock. And we've seen Alex Iwobi come on, Josh King had come on, and maybe Carlo would switch the tactics then back from, right, okay, we need to go out and get something out of this game to, you know what, ultimately, let's just settle for a point here. It's a tough game, we've gotten back into it, we've showed a lot of fight, we've showed a lot of desire, let's settle for a point. And I'm not saying that was the tactic of Carlo Ancelotti, but I got the impression that we sort of just felt like, right, don't concede another goal now. If we can hit them on the counter-attack and we can get a winner, excellent. But the priority at that point wasn't as much of go forward. It was don't concede again. Because if one thing we'd have learned from the Man United game against the game against Man United in the FA Cup in the capital. What's going on with me? The Man United game in the Cup, whatever it's called, the Carabao Cup earlier on in the year, in the season in December, and the Man United game in the league was that both of those games, I think, they hit us late on the counter-attack and they won the game doing that. I think they beat us 3-1 at Goodison Park in the league with a last-minute counter-attacking goal when we put everyone forward to try and equalise, and they done it in the Carabao Cup as well. They broke forward in the last 10 minutes, I believe, and they scored again to completely kill the game off. So maybe Carlo Ancelotti at 2-2 was thinking the last thing we need now is to get everyone forward, they hit us on the counter-attack, and they go and score the winner, and then we struggle to get an equaliser. So maybe let's just revert back to not conceding, and then if we can counter-attack them, excellent. If we can't, we take a point. And that, again, was what was really, really frustrating, is you then look at that and think, well, it's been 10 minutes into the first half here. We've got back into the game, and we've shown that Manchester United are very susceptible to defensive mistakes. We've shown that, Luke says the speed talking, really coming back to confuse me. The speed talking really coming back to confuse me. Sorry, mate, I might be talking a little bit too fast. I apologise. But I think, again, it was another one of those situations where you do sort of look at it and you're thinking, again, when we concede the third, you're thinking, should we have adopted that defensive mistake? Defensive mistake. Should we have adopted that defensive tactic, or should we just have continued to go at them and get the winner and continue to get forward? But I understand both sides of the argument. I understand the side in which we said if we'd have continued going, we could have got a third and maybe even a fourth, and hurt Manchester United more and made them pay for their defensive errors. But I understand the argument as to that. Well, okay, if we'd have continued to go forward, if we continue to break at them, what happens if on the 89th minute we'd have missed 4 clear-cut chances and they'd hit us on the counter-attack and they'd scored the winner? We'd all be sitting here saying, why didn't we just defend? So I get it. I get the tactic, and I get the reasoning in as to which we did it. But ultimately, we're defending. We're focusing less on getting the ball forward. We're focusing less on scoring. They get a free kick in a silly area. Ball comes in. Scott McTominay rises, and it's 3-2. And again, considering we come out of this game with a point, a last-minute equaliser to win a point, and considering we were so poor in the first half, I'm still sitting here now saying every goal we conceded was goals that we could avoid. And Man United might be saying the same thing, and that's what football's about, isn't it? But I certainly think from an Everton point of view, every goal we conceded on Saturday could have been avoided. And the third goal was exactly the same. Ball comes in. Scott McTominay rises. There's about 4 or 5 Everton players just standing underneath him. Nobody decides to jump to challenge him. He rises, he gets a free header on it, and it goes into the corner of the net. I've seen it again on a couple of times. Should Robin Olsen do better? Potentially. He gets his feet caught. He does slip, to be fair, and I think that slip ultimately is what allows him to not be able to cover up the space to make the save. And maybe I was a little bit harsh on Robin Olsen and the instant match reaction. I still look at it and think, even with the slip, maybe he should do a little bit better. But you can't make up for an awful pitch, and that's the second pitch in a week we've played on which just hasn't been up to scratch whatsoever. And considering this is Old Trafford and the Theatre of Dreams and all of this nonsense, the pitch was awful again. And Robin Olsen gets his feet caught between him. He can't quite make the room up, and the header is placed in the corner of the goal. But more importantly, like I said, after watching the header 3, 4, 5 times, why it's not defended is beyond me. Why 4 Everton players allow Scott McTominay to rise instead of putting pressure on him and jumping with him. And, no one's saying we were guaranteed to win that ball when it come in, because Scott McTominay's very good in the air. He's a tall, physical player. But at least put a bit of pressure on him. At least jump with him. At least don't give him a free header in the air to get a connection on it. If you watch the goal again, it's literally like in rugby when the ball comes in and like 4 players lift up 1 player in the air. It was like that was what was happening. None of them jump. And that's the more frustrating thing for me, is we've showed the fight, we've showed the desire, we've showed the heart to get back into the game. And yes, listen, if the ball had fallen to Mason Greenwood and he'd have hit it from 35 yards and it'd have rifled into the top corner, yes, I'd have been pissed off, yes, I'd have been annoyed, yes, I'd have been upset, yes, I'd have been frustrated, but I'd have been able to sit here and go, you know what, that's an excellent finish, that, and hands up, that's a really, really good finish. But it was the fact that it was another sloppy, stupid goal to concede that put Manchester United back in front. And at that point, then it does take a lot of desire, it does take a lot of fight, it does take a lot of passion, it does take a lot of urgency, it does take a lot of never give up attitude to get back into that game. And that's what we showed. We did come forward a couple of times. Like I said, Richarlison has one, which again I think hasn't helped his case in terms of how people thought he performed. Like I said, I'm sticking up for him, because in that first half there was 5 or 6 times that he made brilliant runs down that left hand side and nobody picked them out. But Richarlison has one where Dom does really well, puts Maguire on his arse. It would have probably been VAR'd for a foul, to be honest with you, but nevertheless the referee allows it to go on, puts Maguire on his arse, plays a really good ball into Richarlison, who again, one-on-one with David De Gea, and puts it wide. And you really are expecting Richie to do better in that situation. Even a Richarlison who's been out of form and hasn't been brilliant recently, you're really expecting him to do better. But he doesn't. He puts it wide, and that was with 5-6 minutes to go. And at that point, I'm thinking, that's it. That's absolutely it. It's done. We won't get back into this game here. It's done and dusted. Man United weren't really flying forward. They did have the odd chance. Robin Olsen made a fantastic save, to be fair to him. I think it was at 2-2. It might have been at 2-1 actually. Made a couple. Luke Shaw had one where he palmed it out, and Marcus Rashford had one where he went 1-on-1 with him, and he makes a brilliant save. Gets down well and puts it out for a corner. I thought it was a goal. I thought it was a sick goal, but he doesn't. He gets down well and he puts it out. But like I said, couple of minutes to go at Old Trafford, 4 minutes at the time. Josh King's come on at this time, and I want to talk about Josh King because I think he deserves a lot of credit for the equaliser, certainly, because he had a big part to play in it. We will get in the comments in a moment. By the way, if you're enjoying, please do leave a like. Don't forget to subscribe if you're new. Share the stream. Try and get as many people involved as we possibly can. But Josh King, let's talk about Josh King for a second. Obviously, made his debut against Leeds after signing on transfer deadline day. Come on in that game, didn't really have an awful lot to do, to be fair. Got his foot on the ball a couple of times, broke forward on a couple of occasions, but again, didn't really have an awful lot to do at the end of the Leeds game. Come on against Manchester United, two things that stood out for me. One, he absolutely sends Bruno Fernandez and Scott McTominay for that hot dog with a nice little 1-2 and gets his way past them, showing that he's got that ability with the ball at his feet, showing that he's got good dribbling capabilities, showing that he can attack and he can offer us something different. And this is something I said yesterday on Twitter. Josh King was brought into this Everton team to add something different. He was brought into this Everton squad to give us something off the bench in the last 10 or 15 minutes of games when we're searching for an equaliser or when we're searching for a winner. And Carlo was asked about Josh King and specifically about goals, and he said, I haven't really brought him in for his goals. I haven't really brought him in to score goals. I've brought him in to have an impact on this team. And we haven't seen Josh King score. In fact, we haven't seen Josh King assist recently in the couple of games that he's been at Everton. But what we absolutely have seen is him make an impact on this team. Firstly, like I said, that nice little 1-2, which never ended up in anything. It went out to, I think, Luca Dean, and he put the ball in the box and it was defended, but it was just exceptional to see Bruno Fernandez and Scott McTominay sent for a hot dog with a fantastic bit of dribbling. And then lastly, and most importantly, the free kick. Josh King picking the ball up, running with pace, running with energy, desire, fight, never give up. Josh King could have easily played it into the centre of the park there, or turned around and played it safe back to the defence and thought, you know what, we're losing, we've lost this game, we'll chalk it off and we'll we'll go again in the in midweek against Tottenham. But he didn't. He picked the ball up, he got his head down, and the one thing in his brain was run, and that's exactly what he did. He belted it down that wing. He got fouled. For me, it's an awful challenge, but it gave us the chance to get an equaliser. Now, as soon as we get that free kick, and as soon as Robin Olsen goes up, I don't want to say it's the negative Evertonian in me, but I just think it was past experience, and it wasn't even past experience of years gone by. It was past experience of 3 months ago when we played Man United at Goodison Park, and all I was thinking was, this is going to go one or two ways here. We're either going to be absolutely elated because we'll score a last minute equaliser, or more likely with Everton, the ball will go back up the end of the pitch, Robin Olsen will still be tracking back, they'll go up, they'll score again, they'll make it 4-2, and that'll be it. And it'll be a very similar end to the game at Goodison Park a few months back. Looking back on it, if they'd have cleared it, John Moss would have probably blown up because it was already a minute and a half over extra time. But I spoke to my dad about this yesterday. I've never been that elated as an Everton fan at the end of a game, even though it wasn't a winner. And I want to talk about something, because I've seen a couple of Manchester United fans, not a lot of Man United fans, but I've seen a couple of Manchester United fans who were bemoaning the fact that we were celebrating a draw. And Ped talked about this on his instant match reaction on Toffee TV, and I have to talk about Ped because I don't want to make it look like I'm just completely copying what he's saying, but I absolutely echo and replicate exactly what Ped said, and that was, if you honestly sat there after Dominic Calvert-Lewin equalised with the last breath of the game at Old Trafford on Saturday night, and you went on Twitter and you said, if you're an Everton fan celebrating that, you're embarrassing, you're celebrating a draw, do me a favour and piss off. Go and watch cricket, go and watch rugby, go and watch rounders, go and watch badminton, because football is all about emotion, it's all about elation, it's all about happiness, it's all about frustration, it's all about that emotion, and there's not many more emotional situations and outcomes in football than a last minute goal to get you a result. Be it a point, be it a 3 points, doesn't really matter. That felt like 3 points to me on Saturday, because Everton went from a game in which we'd lost after getting back into it and being very, very frustrated to get back into it and concede a silly third goal, to getting a point out of it in the last breath of the game. So if you are a football fan, be it a Man United fan, or, you know, maybe even there were some Everton fans out there, I don't know, I doubt it, but if you were a football fan and you looked at the celebrations of us Evertonians on Saturday, and you looked at the celebrations of those players in the dressing room after the game, and you've gone, oh, get on them celebrating a draw, don't watch football, mate. And I honestly don't think they do watch football. I think they get all their football knowledge from Twitter and from, you know, typing in a name on Twitter and, you know, saying, oh, he looks good on FIFA. And, you know, they laud these players that are dead boss on FIFA but are shit in real life, because they don't actually understand or watch football. They don't have the emotion of going to watch a football game live in the flesh. And even fans that are real fans, that are proper fans that don't watch football in the flesh, they still get up, be it 6 o'clock in the morning, across the other end of the world. The amount of Evertonians I've not met physically, but met, you know, digitally, I suppose, since doing the Mighty Blues and since having the social media accounts and stuff, that get up at 5 o'clock in the morning. Gortz, who's a regular on this channel, we done the Minnesota video a few months back. He's been on this channel a number of times to talk about Everton. Gortz is from Minnesota, lives in America, the other side of the world. That lad wakes up at 5:10 in the morning to watch Everton. He stays up throughout the entire game and then goes to work and gets on with his day to watch Everton. There's Evertonians in Australia who are up at 2, 3, 4 o'clock in the morning to watch Everton Football Club. There's Evertonians in Liverpool who, if we could, it'd be at Goodison Park, it'd be at every stadium in the country to watch Everton Football Club. That is what a proper football fan is. Not just going the ground and watching us, but making that sacrifice to getting up at 2 o'clock in the morning if you need to watch Carlo Ancelotti's tricky Toffees. That's what being a football fan is. Not sitting on Twitter going, oh, this player's got a team of the week card, so he must be dead good in real life because he's dead good on FIFA, so that must be. Or going, well, you've celebrated the last minute equaliser, you didn't even win. Where, yeah, I have celebrated the last minute equaliser because Everton have gone from losing a game of football to getting a point out of a game of football with the last kick of the game. There's not many more situations in football that make you that emotional, that bring that much happiness, that much joy. Maybe to some Evertonians it was relief. To me it was emotion, it was elation, it was fire, it was passion, it was energy, it was excitement, it was just everything that being a football fan is about. And I've seen that situation go against Everton far too many times in the past, where we've had a lead in the last second. Newcastle at Goodison Park last season, Man United at Goodison Park earlier on in the season, even though we didn't have the lead, where we've had a lead in the last 30 seconds of a game. The opposition have got a free kick, and all you're thinking is, clear this, clear this, clear this. It's not cleared and it goes in, and the opposition fans have had that elation, they've had that happiness, and me as an Evertonian, I've had the frustration, I've had the anger, I've had the, all of the happiness sucked out of me. I've had the upset, I've had the I can't be bothered. So it's so good when that goes for you, and when your team scores the last minute equaliser, or your team scores the last minute winner. And you know what? That wasn't a last minute winner by Dominic Calvert-Lewin, but it was a point that was so deserved and so needed in that second half, because Everton turned up in that second half. We showed fight, we showed desire, we showed passion, we showed energy, we showed intensity, and we got a point that we desperately needed and we desperately deserved. We got 7 on the bounce now away from home. An exceptional record for Carlo Ancelotti, and like I said, if you didn't jump up off your couch and throw your remote halfway across the room and scream in joy and elation on Saturday, then what were you doing? What were you doing? Because, like I said, it felt like a win of that. And to Man United fans, that would have felt like they'd have lost the game. That emotion would have been, like I said, what we've all felt as Evertonians multiple times in recent history, where we've conceded in the last second to lose a game or to draw a game, and we're all gutted and we're all fuming. That was how they would have felt. They'd have felt like they lost. To Everton, it felt like we'd won a game of football. And even though we hadn't, that emotion, that elation, that happiness is what being a football fan is about. And if you sat there and went, yeah, but we've only got a point, or yeah, look at them celebrating, they've only got a point. Then go and watch a sport like darts or something. Well, not darts, because darts is quite emotional, but go and watch a sport like cricket or rugby or something where when you score, you just go, well done, decent goal, that. Go and watch something that's not emotional based, because football is all about emotion, and that was the most emotional I've been as an Evertonian in a long, probably, to be honest with you. Again, I've been proud of Everton, I've been happy, I've been excited, I've been over the moon, I've been elated, I've been unbelievably happy, but that elation and that amount of happiness and that adrenaline that all come apart of me in a split second, I haven't felt that since Phil Jagielka lashed one in at the Kop end 6-7 years ago from 45 yards. I haven't felt that amount of emotion. I really haven't. Underground upsets, didn't throw the remote, but definitely jumped. Yeah, maybe that was a bit of an exaggeration from me, but you know what I mean. You know, you absolutely know what I mean. If you're not jumping up and screaming and shouting and having that emotion and having that elation, then what's the point in even watching football? A point at Old Trafford, Underground says, a point away at Old Trafford, especially in that way, is practically a win. Exactly, mate. It was a really important point, and if you'd have said to 99% of Evertonians prior to the game, would you take a point here? Would have all said, yeah, definitely, absolutely, and we've taken a point in the best way possible to take a point. Our last minute equaliser. Let's talk about the equaliser then. Josh King wins the free kick. Brilliant play by Josh King. Luca Dean gets the ball. Robin Olsen's come up. Like I said, for me, all as I'm thinking of is the last time we played Man United, we had a similar situation to this, only they went up the other end and they pretty much killed the game off. If you're enjoying, by the way, please do hit that like button. Don't forget to subscribe to the channel if you're new, if you're watching live. Really do appreciate it. Big thanks for everyone in the live comments. We will get back into the comments in a moment. If you're new to the channel, like I said, subscribe. If you could share the video, it would mean a great deal to me as well. Luca Dean flat throws the ball into the box. It's an exceptional cross into the box. I thought Luca Dean performed really well on Saturday. Exceptional ball into the box. Michael Keane gets the head on. Yes, you know, United fans are calling for a foul and a free kick and an handball and whatever else, whatever other nonsense they're calling for. Dominic Calvert-Lewin gets on the end of it, and Dominic Calvert-Lewin makes up for the mistake earlier on in the game where he doesn't slot it past De Gea comfortably, and this time he slots it past De Gea. I'm thinking, the emotion and the elation and the energy and all of that's there, but then in the back of my head I'm thinking, don't be VAR, and then I hear Gary Neville saying, nothing wrong with that goal, that'll stand, and that was it then. That was it. We watched the replay again. They're calling for that handball because they think they can referee games of football because they've got a God complex. Not a chance it was an handball, not a chance there was any foul. Comes off, I think it's Michael Keane's head. Dom takes an excellent touch with his chest. The media are still trying to chat was in an handball. Shut your mouth. It's a great touch with his chest. He dimps it past David De Gea, and we've taken a point. 20 seconds later, the final whistle goes, and we've nicked it. Duncan Ferguson's running up the touchline with a massive smile on his face, jumping all over Carlo Ancelotti. David Ancelotti is going apeshit on the bench. He's pretty much lashed his hat and everything. He's going mental on the bench, and it's that emotion, and it's that fire, and it's that never give up attitude that we all accept as a football club. That first half performance wasn't good enough by Everton. It wasn't good enough whatsoever. But if there's anything that Evertonians will take to, if there's anything that Evertonians will absolutely get behind, is players not folding over and not accepting defeat and getting back up, picking themselves up and going again and getting back into games and getting points when points are needed. And that is exactly what we did. And that's what Carlo Ancelotti's brought to this Everton team. He hasn't brought we're 2-0 down, so, you know, we're probably not going to win, so just don't concede another two. He's taken no, I don't care who you're playing and where you're playing. Go out and go and get something out of this game. And that's what we did, and it was exceptional. On top of the goal, obviously, we seen Ben Godfrey turning around and telling Annie Maguire to F off, which was just absolutely unbelievable. But like I said, for me, Josh King deserves a lot of plaudits for that, because he wins the free kick by doing what he was brought in to do, and that is run forward with the ball and ultimately create chances and get us in areas where we can score goals, and that's what he did. Let's get back into the live comments then. I can't remember where I'm up to. There are loads of comments in the comment section today. Really do appreciate all of the support. Tashi says, Godfrey is boss, he takes no prisoners, telling England international Maguire to F off. Boss indeed, passion and dedication. You're spot on. Evertonian Luke says, how are we, Cam lad? Good result, not the best performance, but it's the points on the board. Onto the cup game next. Couldn't agree more with you, Luke, mate. Couldn't agree more. Douglas says, Luke, what would have happened if Everton refused to play on Wednesday, or was that not possible? Luke says, I don't know if it's a possibility, but I believe the entire conversation was between the Prem and Man City. Wouldn't surprise me, mate. Yeah, we'd have probably just had the points deducted and they'd have been given a 3-0 win, I assume, and that would have been that. It wouldn't have gone in Everton's favour, put it that way. Ian says, Alan will need a game in his leg, so I'd have him on the bench for Spurs start against Fulham. No, I agree, mate. That's exactly my thought process. Luke says, imagine the reaction if Pickford made the same mistake as Olsen or De Gea that game. Exactly, mate. Niall says, I reckon we beat Tottenham. I hope so. Douglas says, was it? That's even more annoying because Everton are the home team. It should be the home team who make the next future date. Exactly. Niall says, Areola underrated. Him or Nick Pope, I'd have any of them. Maybe Donnarumma, but would he come to us? Or Rui Silva meant to be great on a free in the summer? I think they'd all come to us because they'd all want to play under Carlo, mate. Wouldn't need to be honest with you, so... but again, goalkeeper's definitely a conversation for another day. James says his touch was unreal. First thing I noticed. Alexander says that pass was almost a shot. Exactly, mate. Mama says as long as nobody gets injured before the City and Liverpool fixtures next week, I am content. Those will determine our entire season. We'll get a run of weak teams soon after that. Got to show our strongest moment now and farm these weaker teams later and pull away on that table. Completely agree, mate. Douglas says Pickford or Olsen could be worse. Could have had Allison. Yeah, he had a stinker yesterday, didn't he? Niall says Hammers is quality. Philip says, I've watched Hammers' goal a few times now. The Corey sent that over like a rocket. His console was awesome. Neville did utter as usual. Oh, though. Yeah, because he's a United fan. And he was... You could see the frustration in Gary Neville's voice when we equalised it in the last kick of the game. Ian says, does the Corey intend his pass for Hammers or Gomez? I don't know. But if he does intend it for Gomez, James basically says, nah, that's mine, mate. I'll take that under control. Nice one all day long. Stuart says, I thought TCL was poor yesterday. He can only score headers or tap-ins. He can't really finish with his feet. Maybe he needs to improve on those one-on-ones, like I said. Philip says, it was hoping for the best, I think. Luke says, I've seen more news reports that Godfrey swearing than Liverpool are getting beat. I know, they just... Again, cold feet, mate. Cold feet. Talking about cold feet, actually, I've got quite cold feet now. I could do with putting a pair of socks on. Yeah, cold feet. Cold feet. I'm not going to get distracted anyway. Who'd get distracted with cold feet? Douglas says, Ian, mate, doesn't matter. We scored. That's all that matters. Exactly, mate. Manuel says, we should have picked up Odegaard as well. Another Zidane reject. It was brilliant. Well, he hasn't had much game time at Arsenal yet, has he? But, you know, to give him his due, he's only just come in. Ian says, too, Douglas. John says, fancying us at this rate against Liverpool. I agree. Everton Bot says, hey, everybody... How's everyone doing? William says, hey guys. Samuel says, I honestly think Richarlison's not playing well at the moment. He is slow and takes wrong decisions and also weak passing. Again, I think he's a little bit void of confidence at the moment, but he will improve, Richie. He will improve. Julian says his hammer's injured. I don't believe so, mate. I think he was taken off as a precautionary to avoid an injury. Hopefully not anyway. Abigail says, would you go and watch my husband Dan's channel? He is doing a transfer show with Fabrizio Romano on the Blind Gooner. Would you do a video with him one day? I'd do a video, mate. I'd do a video, yeah. I'll do a video with anyone. Julian says we are going to hurt Spurs. Their mentality is currently weak. I hope so. Who says the speed talking really coming back to confuse me. Wayne says people need to get off Richie's back. He was making great runs against Man United, but we kept playing backwards. No one passed to him. That's the team's fault, not Richie's. Exactly, mate. I echo that 100%. 100%. Philip says I thought Cam was having a stroke there. No, just couldn't get my words out. Pidy says we need to take advantage of Spurs now. I know they'll be tired legs, but we need to keep it fresh midweek. Yeah, we're talking about the Spurs game. We will have our game preview out a little bit later on tonight for that game. It won't be a live stream, it'll be a video, but we will have it up a little bit later on tonight, so don't forget to look out for that one. We'll be doing our predicted start 11 and talking about the game, of course. Now says maybe Josh King starts for Fulham or Tottenham. I'd say Fulham, though. I think he'll start midweek, to be honest. I think he'll start against Spurs, just to give Dom a little bit of a rest, but maybe he won't. Maybe he'll start with Dom and then Josh will start against Fulham. Or maybe Josh will start in place of Richarlison to give him a little bit of a rest. Philip says Olsen was getting that ball. He was pushing off and had it. Not his fault. Fair enough. Wayne says that was the disappointing thing. We only played for 15 minutes and still got a free draw. Feel like if we had some bollocks and could have played a bit more, we could have won. Manuel says gut feeling tells me we'll lose to Spurs but beat Liverpool in the league. Imagine that, mate. I don't want to say I'd take that because I never want to lose, but I'll take that. Ian, I don't know, though, actually, because I really want to win the FA Cup, so I don't know. That's a difficult one, that. Let me know if you'd take that in the comments. Ian says, it was funny to hear a Man U manager complaining there was too much injury time at Old Trafford. I know. Carlo time, mate. Now, Niall says, would you try 4-4-2 with King and Dom up front? Maybe, it's an option. Maybe says, no, we suck when we only have 2 centre midfielders and we ain't got the bench to play 2 strikers. What? Like they didn't celebrate when De Gea asked the ref into taking a goal off us. Exactly, mate. They were all laughing it up. They were jumping all over the houses when that goal got disallowed at Goodison. So, it was only a couple, to be fair. There wasn't many United fans saying it. Ian says, Sky still looking to spot Dom's handball today. I bet, yeah, they'll analyse it in some ways to say that, it's next to his hand, so that automatically should mean it's his hand. Philip says, when we scored that goal, I ran into the street, and I can't say that, mate. I can't say that, but you probably shouldn't be doing that, Phil. Wayne says, gotta go, yous have a good day. Catch you next time. Cheers, Wayne, thank you very much. God says, thanks for the shout-out, Cam. Shout-out to other fans like me. You're brilliant, mate. You're absolutely brilliant. Getting up at that time shows the dedication to Everton Football Club. Luke says, got my IT college lesson now. I'll try and stay on the stream. No, cheers, Luke. Tazio says, hi, mate. Douglas says, does anyone remember Liverpool celebrating a goal against West Brom a couple of years ago? I agree. Manuel says, FIFA is a joke. Certainly, EA needs to lift up their ratings for the entire Everton team, especially the likes of James, Godfrey, Decore and Richie. Douglas says, I was in the shop and just shouted out. Underground says, didn't throw the remote but definitely jumped. Gord says, I was celebrating in the back room of my work for the equalizer. Is right, mate. Underground says, a point away at Old Trafford is a great point. I love to have to change now and again. Says, great results, always good to see United drop points. Ian says, as draws go against Man United, Saturday was up there with the 4-4 and the 3-3 at Goodison. I agree, mate. Douglas says, what done my head in was the pundits all about United. They always are, mate. Underground says, enjoyed it when Godfrey told Maguire to F off for moaning it was offside. Spot on. It was absolutely excellent. That B Wood says, the way the results fell for us this weekend meant that a draw feels like a win. Great, another weekend where the results have gone for us. He also says 3 points off top 4 with 2 games in hand. Spot on. Lenny says, hopefully this result will give the players confidence to kick on the season and achieve big things. I hope so. Ian says, nice one, Cam. Cheers, Ian. B-Wood says, can't play against Spurs. Samberio says, midday stream, love it. Cheers, mate. Underground says, King can't play in the FA Cup because he played for Bournemouth. Okay, he can't play against Spurs. So maybe Dom will play against Spurs and King will start against Fulham. B-Wood says, pretty sure he has played for Bournemouth in the FA. Cheers. Thanks for clearing that up. I forgot about that. And Duncan says, love to see, Duncan Ferguson says, love to see Godfrey at right back against Spurs. Gets close to Son and don't let him turn. Nullify Son and Spurs have no plan B. Exactly, mate, exactly. I agree. I absolutely agree. But yeah, look, it was an absolute roller coaster of emotions. A very good first 25 minutes. Rest of the second half where we just looked like we just, again, we were... maybe we didn't want the battle, we didn't want the fight. The second half, we come out flying. We were absolutely excellent. Got back into the game in the opening 10 or 15 minutes. Maybe sort of thought, right, we'll take a point in this one. And then when they scored the third, we get back up. We show the fight. We show the desire. We show the energy. Like I said, Tom Davis, absolutely excellent again. Really, really good performance by him. His ball for Dom for the first goal is just exquisite. Another solid 8-9 out of 10 performance, even though I give him a 6.5 on the player ratings. Sorry about that one. And again, although people mightn't like to say it, Tom is starting to establish himself as a very, very good option for Carlo Ancelotti. Andre Gomez, another really good performance. James with that magic. Decore, unreal. Robin Olsen maybe a little bit unlucky. Josh King coming on and doing exactly what he's been brought in to do. And ultimately, a very, very, very good point against the difficult side. And like I said, that elation, that just sheer emotion at the end of it makes it feel like it was a win. But a point at Old Trafford isn't a bad point whatsoever. Anyway, that is going to do it for today's live stream. A massive thank you to everybody in the live comments for getting involved. If you have enjoyed it, please do hit that like button. It does only take a second. If you're new to the channel, don't forget to subscribe as well. We will be back a little bit later on with the game preview to the Spurs game, so don't forget to look out for that one. I'll be giving a predicted starting 11, giving my thoughts on the game as well, of course, so don't forget to look out for that one. Massive thank you for watching. If you're watching as a YouTube video, please do leave your thoughts in the comment section and we'll try and get involved with as many of them as we possibly can. Siad says, being a Toffee for over 50 years and I don't think my heart can take being so stressed over this current team. A great team, but never know which Everton team will turn up, then injuries is second nature to us. Exactly, mate. We never make it easy, do we? And B Wood says, fantastic content, mate. Keep up the good work up the F and Toffees. Thank you, mate. Really, really do appreciate that. Listen, massive thank you for watching. Like I said, big thanks to everybody in the comments. I know it was an early stream, so I really do appreciate everyone getting involved. If you're new, please do subscribe. We'll be back later with the preview to the Spurs game. Massive game in the FA Cup, and hopefully we can beat them and progress. Massive thank you for watching. Up the Toffees. Get in, and I'm off to go and celebrate Dom's equalizer again. Big thanks for watching, and we'll see you soon.